Welcome to the video lecture series of software development practices. And today in this Q&A session, we are going to see a program related to JavaScript. Now let's go to the Q&A section. The query taken for today's section is write a script that inputs three numbers and determines and outputs markup that displays the number of negative numbers, positive numbers, and zero inputs. That is, so thus we are going to design a HTML page, and there we need to accept three numbers, right? And in that number, we are going to give the output as how many numbers we have inputted. Among the numbers, how many are positive numbers, how many are negative numbers, and how many are zero numbers, right? So this is the script which we are going to do. So now let's move to the Visual Studio for creating the script. So here we have come to the Visual Studio. So here we are going to create a new folder. So 02, and since we are going to perform the number classification, that is classifying the numbers into positive, negative, and zero, so we can give the name of the folder to be number classification. Okay, and so in this number classification, here what I am going to do is I am going to create a HTML page and then individual JavaScript page. That is, I am going to create a separate HTML page and a separate JavaScript page. Okay, so here in this number classification, I need a HTML page. So I am giving the name as index.html. And next, I need to create a JavaScript page. So for that, I am going to give the name as script.java. See, script.java. So that is the name of our JavaScript page. So we have created our two new pages which are being needed for our use. Okay, so now we shall close the Explorer, and now coming to the index.html. So here what I am going to do is, that is, I am going to create a button. On clicking that particular button, the prompt will be enabled, and through the prompt, three inputs we will be getting, and once after entering the three inputs, the result will be getting calculated, or the processing will be done inside the script.js, that is in the script file, JavaScript file, and the result will be displayed in the HTML page. So that's what I am aiming to do in this particular coding, or in this particular question, right? So in order to create a HTML page, the first and foremost thing which we need to create is the version. That is, we need to tell the browser that we are going to write a HTML5 page. For that, we need to use the document type followed by the HTML, right? And then we need to create the root tag of the document. Okay, so root tag of the document is nothing but your HTML tag, right? So now we have created the HTML5 version file, that is to tell the browser that we are using HTML5, and then we have created the root tag of the document, right? And the next part is nothing but your head. Okay, so head. So in this head, we can have two different type of data. One is your metadata and another one is your title. So the metadata will be telling, or which will be ensuring the page which supports, or which type of character it supports. Okay, so which type of character it is going to support. Okay, so for that we need to use the meta character set, and here we have to give the meta character set type. Okay, so here it is meta character set UTF-8. Okay, so this is the meta character set, and then we need to give the title for the page, right? So here, since we are going to do the number classification, I am going to give the title as number classification. Yeah, so here you can see in the top or in the title, you can see the changes. Okay, so now we have finished the first half or the first part of the HTML page. So now we need to create the second part set to be the body, right? So here only we will be displaying all the details or displaying all the things whatever we are designing in this HTML page. Okay, so here I am going to create a heading, right? So heading, so here I am going to tell what we are going to do, right? So the operation which we are going to do is nothing but the number classification. So I am going to give it as a heading here, right? So it is a number classification, and I told that, so I am going to create a button. On clicking the button, the operations will be taking place, right? So here I am going to give the button tag. Okay, so this is your button tag, and here I am going to give a message as input numbers. Okay, so input numbers is the message or the content which I have given for this button to get displayed. Okay, and here on clicking this button I need to make the operations to happen, or on clicking the button the operation has to happen, right? So for that we need to include an attribute set to be id. Okay, right? So this particular id attribute will be allowing to access the button through the JavaScript. Okay, right? So this, through this ID only we will be initiating the operation in the backend, right? So here we need to provide a ID name for this, right? So here we are going to count the numbers. So you can give it as count button. Okay, so this is the ID which we have given for this button, right? And then we need a place where we need to display the result. For that I am giving a division tag, right? So the result has to be displayed in this division tag from the JavaScript. Okay, so in order to perform that I need to provide an ID here. Okay, so here the ID name I am giving it as result. Okay, the result is the ID name which I am giving here. Clear? And then, so on clicking this button the action has to be performed, right? So the action will be performed from the JavaScript file. So here we have created an external JavaScript file. Clear? So that JavaScript file has to be included, or it should be called within this particular body part. Okay, so here we can include the JavaScript file by through your script tag. Okay, so JavaScript, so script tag we have used, and here we need to provide the source. Source is nothing but your script.js which we have already created. Okay, so this is your file, or this is the HTML page, right? So here we have only created a button. On clicking that particular button, what should be happened? The JavaScript should execute and the result has to be displayed. Okay, so that's what we have done here. So next what we need to do is we need to do the operations in the script.js. Okay, so here, so what functionality we should do in this, or the what functionality the JavaScript has to do is it should prompt the user to enter the three numbers, and it should classify each number as positive number, negative number, or zero, and finally it has to display the count of each category in the result section which we have created here, or in this division section which we have created. Okay, so now we shall see one by one. So here first thing what we need to do is we need to create a action. Okay, so what action we need to perform? Okay, so here on clicking the button we want the action to be performed. Okay, right? So we need to get the ID of that particular button, and through that button we need to perform a operation, or we need to execute a function. That is the first step which we need to do in this particular JavaScript file. Is it clear? So for that we need to get the ID of this particular button. Okay, so in order to get that we need to use the document, that is a root element, and we need to use the elements by ID method. Okay, so get by elements by id method, and here we need to get the id of that element, right? So here the id of our button is nothing but count button. Clear? So this has to be used here. Okay, on clicking this button, what has to happen, that we are going to give, right? So here we are going to add a event listener. Okay, we are going to add a event listener here. Okay, so here we don't want the preview, so we can close it. Okay, so we need to add a event listener, and what type of event we need to do, right? So on clicking the button, we need the operation to happen. Okay, so you can give it as click. So click is the operation, so we shall enclose it in the quotes. Okay, so click is the operation, and on clicking, what has to done, right? So we are going to include a function here. Okay, we are going to include a function here. Clear? And then within this function, all the operation will be taking place. Okay, so within this function, all the operation will be taking place, right? So since it is given as a function, we need to close it by using a semicolon. Clear? Right? So here we are getting the element by its id, and we are adding a event listener, that is on clicking what has to take place, or what action has to take place, that we have given here, right? Okay, and now our aim is to count positive number, negative number, and zero number. Okay, how many zeros, how many positive, and how many negative numbers, whatever we are entering. Clear? So that for that, what we can do, we can use three variables. Okay, so here I am giving this let positive. Okay, so positive equal to 0. Okay, so I initiate the count to be 0. Okay, or else we can give it as positive count. Okay, positive count. Then next is let negative count equal to 0, and then let 0 count equal to 0, right? So three variables we have displayed, or we have declared here. Okay, and then here what we can do is we need to get the input from the user. Okay, so we need to get the input from the user, right? So how we can get the input from the user is, that is, we need to store the values, right? So for that we can use two different ways. One is by using an array, and the another one is by using a for loop, right? So here I am going to use a for loop. Okay, so for loop, and here I am initializing a counter value, that is I equal to 0, and then I'm giving the condition that we need to get three values. Okay, so we need to get three values, then I plus plus, that is the counter value for this I. Okay, so here what operation is going to happen is we are going to get three numbers. Okay, so getting three numbers from user. Okay, so getting three numbers from user, that is the operation we are going to do here. Okay, so next, what number we are getting, or what number we are going to input from the keyboard, that we need to get it in a variable, right? So that I am giving it as let number equal to, from where we are going to get. Okay, so I am going to give it as prompt enter the number. Okay, enter the number, that is the message I have given here. Okay, so enter the number, that is the message I have given. Clear? So we shall do one thing. Here we can give a counter for that. Okay, so how many numbers we need to get, right? So I am giving it a placeholder here for getting the number. That is, we are given the counter as I, so you can give it as I plus 1. Clear? And then semicolon. Okay, and here we can parse the value. Okay, we can parse the value here for entering. Okay, so this is the operation which we are going to perform. Clear? So this is the operation which you are going to perform. And so what is the message we need to display is nothing but this one. Okay, so you can enclose within the quotes. Enter the number followed by the counter value. Okay, in the let num, the three values will be getting stored. After that, count operation. Okay, so count operation will be taking place. Okay, so for that we shall, I am going to use if statement, right? So here in the if statement, the checking can be done whether the number is greater than 0. Okay, so if the number is greater than 0, what can be done? The positive count can be incremented. Okay, next. Else, if number is less than 0, what should be done? The negative count has to get incremented. Okay, so negative plus plus. And finally, else. So if it is not the case, okay, so if the number is not positive, if the number is not negative, what should happen? The 0 count should get executed, or the 0 count has to get incremented. Okay, so that we have given, right? So now the operation of getting the variable has been done. Okay, and then we need to perform the operations related to the result. Yes, right. So here in the HTML page, we have written a section for displaying the result, right? So in the division, we will be displaying the result. Okay. So here, what we need to do, we need to get initialize a, or we need to declare a variable to display the value. Okay. So how, where we need to display the value is inside the document. We are going to get the element by the ID, right? And the ID of the element is result. That is, we are going to display the result in the tag set to be division whose ID is result. Okay, so here we are going to display this. Okay, and result dot division is the variable which we have used, and in this inner HTML property we are taking, right? So already division is there. We have not given any contents there, right? So in the runtime we are going to add the content. Okay, so for that we are going to use the keyword set to be inner HTML, or the property set to be inner HTML. Okay, and here we are going to declare the value. Okay, so here I am going to declare the value as I am using, yeah, header. Okay, I'm going to use a header specifying that we are going to display the result. Okay, we are going to display the result here. Okay, and then in a paragraph, I'm going to display the positive number. Okay, so P. So here I'm going to display the positive number, right? So positive number, right? So positive number, and here I am using the dollar, and so say within this I'm going to use this count or the variable, right? So here only the count of the particular variable positive count is mean will be getting added up there. Okay, next we shall take it for negative count. Okay, so negative number. For that we need to use the negative count. Okay, and then zeros. Okay, so here we need to use this tilde symbol, right? So tilde symbol has to be used, so that only you will get the proper result. Okay, so here we need to use the zeros count. Okay, so for that zeros count, dollar, and then use this zero count here. Okay, zero count is been given here, right? So now what will be happening is all the values whatever we have given, or all the values whatever we have included will be getting executed. Okay, so now we shall see the preview for that. Okay, so input numbers, So since we have not given any input values, so it is taking 0 as the default and you are getting the result as 0. Okay. So now what shall we do is we shall execute it in the browser. We shall open this particular page in the browser and we shall do our execution. So I'm going to the folder number classification. So here I am coming to the folder and then I am opening in Google Chrome. Okay, so I am clicking the input number. So here you can see enter the number one. I am giving the enter the number as 0. Okay, so then next it is asking to enter the second number. I am giving the number as 4. Then click OK and it is asking to enter the number. That number I am giving a negative number and then clicking OK. So here we will be getting the output. Okay, the result positive number is 1, negative number is 1 and 0 is 1. Okay, again I am going to execute this. Input numbers I am giving positive number, 2 positive number and a single negative number. Here you can see the change. Okay, 2 positive number and a single 0. Clear. So this is the output for your number classification, right? So here as a recap, in the HTML page, a button is created, a division for displaying the result is created, and the external JavaScript file is being linked here. Okay, in the JavaScript, we have created a button that is a even listener for the button through the click function, and 3 variables are created for holding the value. For loop is used for getting the 3 numbers from the user, and in the if loop we have counted the numbers. Okay, so if the number is greater than 0, positive count will be incremented. If the number is less than 0, negative count will be incremented, and if the number doesn't fall in these two categories, the 0 count will be getting incremented. Okay, so after the calculation, we have declared the result area, and here in the element with the id result is called, and there we are writing the result as an inner HTML. Hope you have understood. Thank you.